The room was still clapping when my son stood up. 30 people in a backyard strung with blush balloons, my sister glowing in white, my mother's champagne glass raised mid-toast. They'd just finished laughing at me. The kind of laughter that lands like applause, palms hitting palms, because someone said the cruel thing out loud and everyone agreed it was funny. And then Devin, 8 years old, dinosaur tie crooked, the kid they'd wedged into a folding chair by the hallway, stood up from that chair the way you stand when a teacher calls your name. Serious, straight back. "Aunt Nia," he said, "should I tell everyone about Uncle Mike's other family?" The sound didn't fade. It evaporated. 1 second there were 30 people breathing, and the next there was nothing, just ice shifting in the punch bowl. I'm a forensic accountant. I've watched grown men go pale when a number gets read aloud. I had never heard a silence like the one my son made in that backyard. But to understand how we got there, you have to go back 6 weeks to a stack of bank statements that didn't add up. 6 years ago, my husband left a sticky note on the kitchen counter. 4 words: "I can't do this." His wedding ring sat next to the toaster like loose change. Devin was 2. For a week he kept walking to the front door and pressing his face against the glass, waiting. I kept pulling him back and pretending the sound I made was a laugh. I had half a degree in accounting and a checking balance of $340. So I finished the degree at night. I passed the CPA exam with Devin asleep on a folded blanket under my desk because I couldn't afford a sitter past 9. By 29, I'd started my own forensic accounting practice, just me, a laptop, and a rented office above a dry cleaner that smelled like chemical lavender. By 34, I had 11 steady clients, a mortgage I was 3 years ahead on, and a son who could name every dinosaur that ever lived. None of it counted to my family. To my mother, Carol, I was the daughter who couldn't keep a man. To my sister, Nia, I was a cautionary tale, living proof she'd made the smarter choice. Nobody asked about my work. Nobody asked about Devin's grades. Every phone call circled back to the same arithmetic. Nia had a husband. I did not. She called every Sunday at 4, never to ask how I was. The call opened with Nia's new kitchen tile, Nia's promotion, Nia's husband Mike, and their trip to Hilton Head. If I mentioned Devin made honor roll, she'd say, "That's nice," and pivot back to the real headline. "Your sister figured it out. Mike was the reason Nia's life looked the way it did." 36, broad-shouldered, regional sales for a building supply company. He brought my mother flowers. He grilled steaks at every cookout and called her mom with a wink. The whole family treated him like a trophy Nia had earned for doing life in the right order. Nobody questioned the travel. Every other weekend territory visits, he see them, sometimes Thursday to Monday. He'd come home smelling like a soap that wasn't in their bathroom, and nobody blinked. But nobody's that good. I do numbers for a living. I know when something doesn't reconcile. I just didn't want to look, because questioning Mike meant questioning Nia. But I had no idea how bad it was about to get. 5 weeks before the shower, Mike called me. Not Nia, not my mother, me. He wanted a favor, to pick Devin up from school so I could hit a client deadline. Something twitched in my gut, the way a figure twitches on a spreadsheet right before you find the error. But Devin's whole face lit up. Uncle Mike said milkshakes, Mom, so I said yes. They were gone 4 hours. Devin came home sticky-faced and happy, clutching a paper bag. Uncle Mike got me a toy. I looked inside. A red race car, small. The packaging said ages 2 to 4. Not a toy for an 8-year-old. He grabbed 2 from the store, Devin said. "One for me and one for..." He stopped. "One for who?" "Dev." He bit his lip. I wasn't supposed to say. I let it go. I shouldn't have. But I let it go. That night I was moving a jacket Mike had left in the truck, and a crumpled receipt fell out. A gas station, fuel plus animal crackers and a juice box. The station was in Marbleton, 40 minutes east, past the county line, nowhere near Mike's territory and nowhere near any place Devin needed a milkshake. I smoothed the receipt flat and stared at it the way I stare at a column that won't balance. Devin didn't have a little brother, so whose race car was that? Then, 4 days before the shower, Mike texted, "Hey, quick favor. Refinancing the house, the bank wants organized statements. You're the numbers person. Could you glance at these?" He sent 3 PDFs, 3 months of a joint checking account. I should have said no. But some part of me, the part that still wanted to belong to this family, thought maybe he was finally seeing me as useful. So I opened them at 11 at night with cold coffee. Lee and Devin's math homework still on the table. Normal household spending, groceries, gas, prenatal copays. Then I saw it. A recurring auto-pay $450 a month to a property management company in Marbleton, the same town as the receipt. I scrolled. Another charge, $620 a month to Bright Horizons Children's Center, also Marbleton, a daycare. Nia wasn't due for 2 more months. They had no child yet. I closed the laptop. I didn't sleep. That night I made a decision that would change everything. I told myself to stay out of it. That's my reflex. I carry the weight. I organize the columns. I don't rock the table. But over-responsibility is a skill when you're an accountant. It's a trap when you're a sister. So I ran the numbers again. The Marbleton rent had been active for 37 months. The daycare for 31. Both started before Nia and Mike's wedding. Every month, like clockwork, Mike moved money into a separate account the day before Tuesday. The rent drafted. He was funding a second household on a schedule more reliable than his mortgage. My hands were shaking. I was angry at them for shaking. I read fraud reports for a living. I've untangled embezzlement, caught padded expenses, flagged phantom vendors. Numbers don't scare me. But these numbers had my sister's name on them, and my niece or nephew growing inside her. Then it got worse. 3 days before the shower, Mike took Devin out again. Devin came home quiet. He sat on his bed, pulling off his sneakers one at a time, slow. "Mom, can I tell you something?" "Always." Uncle Mike took me to a house, a different one. There was a lady with red hair and a little boy. His name's Cody. He's small, maybe 3. My spine went cold straight up the center, like someone laid an ice cube at the base and let it melt upward. "Who's the lady, Dev?" Uncle Mike called her Sarah. She made us sandwiches. Cody showed me his trucks. He looked up, careful. Uncle Mike said it's a surprise. Don't tell anyone, especially Aunt Nia. An 8-year-old can keep a surprise. A surprise ends in a smile. But a secret is different. A secret ends in a room going silent. The next morning, emptying his juice-soaked backpack, I found the drawing. 2 houses. The left one had a triangle roof and a stick figure labeled Aunt Nia with a round belly. The right one was smaller, orange crayon, 3 figures. A tall man labeled Daddy Mike, a woman with red scribbles for hair, Aunt Sarah, and a tiny boy, Cody. Between them, a road, a little car with a smile. On the back, in careful block letters, a street and number, 412 Elm, Marbleton. My son had drawn the truth and didn't know it was the truth. I sat on the kitchen floor and realized no one was coming to fix this. There was no version where I saw it. It was on me now. So I did what I do. I built a file. That night, after Devon slept, I pulled the county assessor's public records, the same database I use for asset searches. 412 Elm, a 2-bedroom rental leased to a Michael and Sarah Dunning, April 3 years back. Co-signed, utilities in both names. The lease gave me the adults. My son had already given me the child. I did the math I didn't want to do. Cody was 3. Nia and Mike married 3.5 years ago. Mike had fathered a child with another woman right around his own wedding and built a second life 40 minutes from the house where my sister was painting a nursery sage green. Here's what I didn't do. I didn't screenshot it and text it to Nia at midnight. I didn't announce it on speakerphone. I know exactly what a well-timed reveal does to a person's finances, their custody, their whole life. Dropping that bomb at a baby shower in front of 30 people with Nia 7 months pregnant, that isn't justice. That's cruelty. So I made a plan, quietly. Methodically, I'd wait until after the shower. Coffee, just the 2 of us. No mother, no Mike. I'd bring the statements, the records, the drawing. I'd tell him. Bizarre, gently, the way you deliver hard news to someone you love, even someone who'd spent years making sure you knew she didn't love you back. And I'd tell her the part that mattered. I can help. Forensic accounting exists for exactly this: hidden assets, undisclosed dependents, money that affects a divorce. I could trace every dollar and make sure she and that baby were protected. I rehearsed it twice over the dishes. I wrote notes on a legal pad, then tore them up and flushed them, because scripting the end of your sister's marriage feels clinical in a way that turns your stomach. This wasn't an audit. This was Nia. The girl who climbed into my bed during thunderstorms, the teenager who borrowed my mascara and never gave it back. Truth is a scalpel, not a hammer. You use it where it heals. I texted Mike 2 days out. We need to talk about Marbleton. The typing dots danced and stopped. Then he called, voice low and tight. Stay out of my marriage. People already know what you are. Bitter. G. Yes. Alone. Say one word to Nia and I'll make sure the whole family calls it revenge. I'm not telling anyone at the shower, I said. I'm asking you to tell her yourself. Before the baby. That's not going to happen. He hung up. He had 2 days to come clean. He spent them smiling for shower photos. Almost time. 32,000 hearts. They had no idea what was coming. Neither did I, because I'd planned for a quiet coffee. I hadn't planned for an 8-year-old. Saturday, 8 a.m., my mother's backyard, looked like a magazine I couldn't afford. Blush and gold balloon arch, white folding chairs in perfect rows, A3 tier cake reading Baby Dunning in fondant cursive. A mimosa bar. She met us at the gate. No hello. She pointed at the stacked chairs, 5 rows of 6, ribbons facing front. Then she looked at Devin. He can sit in the hallway. There's a chair by the coat rack. Her grandson. A hallway chair. I knelt and fixed his tie. You're sitting with me, I whispered. The party fill. Nia worked the crowd like a gala host. When she reached the gift table, she opened the big boxes, first each one a squeal. A held-up display. Applause. Then she got to mine. She pulled back the tissue and held the pale yellow blanket I'd knitted over 3 weeks of midnights between 2 fingers, like fabric at a clearance rack. Oh, homemade. That's so you, Ingrid. She set it on the chair behind her, not the display table, the chair. Like a napkin, then came the toast. My mother stood, fork against glass. To my beautiful daughter Nia and to Mike, who gave her everything. A real home, a complete family. She let complete hang in the air and looked straight at me when she said it. The whole afternoon was that. 2 parents, a beautiful home, everything. Glances at me on the word everything, and then the advice game. Kelsey, Nia's loud friend, read a card and asked Nia what she was most excited about. Nia rubbed her belly. She didn't look at the crowd. She looked at me. Honestly, I'm just grateful my baby's going to have a complete home. A father who shows up every single day. She tilted her head and her grin sharpened. At least my baby will have a father. The laughter was instant. 15, maybe 20 of them. 2 of her friends actually clapped. Palms hitting palms, the same sound you make when a comedian lands the punchline, except the punchline was 6 years of my life, and the stage was a yard where I'd set up the chairs that morning. Under the table, Devin's hand found mine and gripped until his knuckles went white. 8 years old, holding me together. My mother waited for the laughter to thin. Then, quiet because she never needs volume, she said it. Some women just make bad choices. She wasn't looking at Nia, she was looking at me. Devin tugged my sleeve. Mom, sit down and be quiet, sweetheart. That was my mother, to my son, without looking at him. Like he was background noise, like he was part of my bad choice. I felt something in me shift, not SN. That, settle like a foundation finally finding level ground. I was going to stand, take my son, and walk out with my head up. And then my son stood up first. He didn't shout. He didn't cry. He stood the way a kid stands when the teacher calls his name. Dinosaur tie slightly crooked. Aunt Nia, should I tell everyone about Uncle Mike's other family? The sound evaporated. Nia's smile froze 1 frame before a picture tears apart. Mike stood at the mimosa bar, hand on a glass that didn't move. Devin looked around the way he does in class when he's not sure he got the answer right. Uncle Mike has another house, he said, quieter now. With Aunt Sarah and a boy named Cody. He's 3. He showed me his trucks. 30 faces turned not toward Devin, toward Mike. Mike, whose face had gone the color of the fondant. Nia laughed once, high and cracking. What is he talking about? She turned to me. Ingrid, what did you tell him? I didn't answer. I didn't need to. The loudest person in a room is sometimes the one who says nothing while the truth does the work. He's confused, Mike said, too loud. Kids make things up. He heard it on TV. I didn't hear it on TV, Devin said, calmer than Mike. I went to the house. You took me. Aunt Sarah made sandwiches. Mike's mouth opened. Nothing came out. I drew a picture, Devin added. It's in my backpack. 20 heads turned toward the coat rack, toward the hallway chair where they sent my son to be out of the way, and the small blue backpack hanging off its arm. Innocent men don't move that fast. Mike was already heading for the door. But Nia got to the backpack first, 7 months pregnant, and somehow the quickest one across that yard. She unzipped it. The folded construction paper dropped out between a juice box and a permission slip. She opened it. 2 houses, 1 smiling car. Daddy Mike, Aunt Sarah, Cody. I watched the drawing dismantle her, piece by crayon piece. Mike, her voice went flat and clinical, like reading a diagnosis. Sis. Explain the drawing, explain Cody, explain 37 months of rent I didn't know about. She'd heard Devon say 3 years and counted backward past her own wedding. Mike had his keys in his hand, pulled out fast, automatic, the way guilty men reach for exits. Nia, I can explain. He looked at the drawing, at the 30 faces, at the patio door behind him. He chose the door. Mike disappeared for 6 days. On the third, a woman named Sarah called Nia's cell. She'd found the number in his phone. She was calm, exhausted. She had a 3-year-old who kept asking where Daddy went. They talked for 47 minutes. I know because Nia called me afterward, her voice flat the way voices go when all the shock is spent and what's left is just math. He took $23,000 from our savings, she said. How did I not notice? Small transfers, irregular timing, I told her. It's textbook. She was quiet a long time. Then 3 words I'd waited 6 years to hear, not for satisfaction, but for proof I existed in her life as something other than a warning label. Can you help me? Yes, I said. That's what I do. I spent 2 weeks pulling apart Mike's finances, a hidden business account, unreported income from a side contracting job, 37 months that touched the marital estate. I built the file the way I build every file: methodical, documented, admissible. Her lawyer called it the most organized financial discovery she'd ever gotten from a non-attorney. My mother called once. She didn't say she was sorry. She said, I didn't know about Mike. You can call me, I told her, when you're ready for a conversation that doesn't start with what I did wrong. She hasn't called back. I mailed Nia the blanket, the clean one, in a box. The baby was innocent. The baby would need it. That night, Devon and I ate ramen off the kitchen floor from mismatched bowls. No champagne. No balloon arch, no toasts about complete families. A noodle hung off his chin and he slurped it in and we both laughed. Mom, he said. At the party, when everyone laughed at you, I didn't think it was funny. I know, baby, that's why I said it, not to be mean. Aunt Nia kept saying stuff about dads, and I kept thinking, but Uncle Mike already has a whole other family, so why's everybody laughing? His logic was cleaner than any courtroom argument I could have made over coffee. He saw a contradiction and said it out loud. That's all. That's everything. A family isn't whole because 2 parents stand in the photo. It's whole when no one in it has to lie to be loved. My 8-year-old taught a backyard full of grown-ups that in one sentence I have never been prouder to be the woman they called a bad choice.